I'm speaking to the choir here, have a voice on the board. So we're looking forward to either re-electing or electing new candidates. So they'll begin July 1st, much like your board here. And then I did put on here, that just takes you to the annual report to the community that you have so that you can see that. So the reason we wanted to make sure that you had a copy of this is that we know that as ambassadors on this board to the community, people might have questions about the library budget and why it's on there. This way, this will inform you if any questions come your way. So feel free to share this out with anybody who you think might be interested. And then other than that, you can go to the next slide. And I don't know if you have any questions for us. This is just a brief overview. We will be doing a full budget overview to the community on May 5th at 5 o'clock at the library. So other than just this brief overview for you, please feel free to join us or encourage anybody that you talk to that ask about the library budget, encourage them to join us on May 5th, and we are posting that on our socials as well as our website. So I don't know if any of you have any questions?
Thank you.
They just vote yes, that's all. All right, it was nice to see some of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We partner with you on so many different things, so thank you for providing great opportunities for our kids. I should have said that but thank you so much. You do so much, and I think sometimes we never make that connection, so thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Our next presentation this evening is our budget presentation for 25-26. Ms. Hooper?
Yeah, give me just 1 minute. I have the wrong one up here. There we go. We don't want an old one.
We still haven't heard from the governor, correct?
No.
We have not heard from the governor. No.
No, the latest that we received was yesterday from NISCUS, and there's still a number of things that aren't associated with apparently education or school aid of any, but it's apparently some number of other things that they're working through with the state, negotiating around a number of different pieces of legislation. So that was what I've learned yesterday. So but apparently not related to education based on what we're seeing.
Okay.
So starting again with our mission, our vision, and our values, and just sort of reiterating that as we went through this process, you know, we really did keep these things in mind as we were discussing the budget and the decisions and choices that we have to make in talking about the budget and our programs moving forward into next year. And then, you know, the circles that we look at, the culture, the systems and structures, and as we go through the budget process and even the discussion of having to make reductions in the budget, we continue to revisit these ideas of our culture and our systems and structures and how all of these things influence the learning, wellness, and the life pathways of our students, and to make sure that these things are driving the decisions and choices and conversations surrounding the budget process. And having said that, you know, as we discuss the budget and the draft budget that we've been presenting, our current 25-26 draft budget does continue to prioritize and we think deliver, you know, many of the things that we agree are our priorities and strengths here at Fulton. And, you know, this probably isn't an exhaustive list, but, you know, many of the things that we all think about and hold as important factors and priorities, you know, with student safety being at the top, along with academic programs. We have a strong MTSS system, behavioral supports and emotional supports, academic intervention and supports, special education opportunities for college level courses, extracurricular opportunities, our community schools programs, our summer professional development opportunities and professional learning teams. Again, it's probably not an exhaustive list, just some of the things, the many things that we think about and, take pride in as we think about what we have here and the budget process.
Okay, can you explain the TSS for anybody who might be watching and doesn't
Sure,
understand what
actually,
that
I
is?
might let Mr.
Sure.
Superintendent jump in on that
TSS,
one.
multi-tiered system of supports. That basically is looking at the services that we provide kids, and what all kids get would be like tier 1 supports for all students. Tier 2 is if kids need a little bit of extra help understanding something. That's at tier 2, a little bit of a boost for the tier 1, and then tier 3 is off level, more substantial supports for more intensive need kids. The idea of MTSS is to stack on each other, so a student who needs tier 3 interventions, those intensive kind of one-on-one or small group interventions, also gets tier 2, also gets tier 1. So they kind of build upon each other. It's not that kids go into 3 different categories. The kids that are the most intensive get all 3 services, all 3 levels of support, where tier 2 would get tier 2 and tier 1 as well. Anything you want to add?
And it's not only for academics, but for behavior as well, so we have systems for both. And part of that process is having team meetings regularly, so we have PSD meetings, so problem solving, and then we have more intervention meetings, so they get more intense and more focused on individual students along the way.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and some of these slides will be familiar to the board, but I wanted to make sure we go through them all again just for anybody watching from the community. So the factors influencing the 25-26 budget and some of the challenges, we spent a lot of time talking about the escalating healthcare costs, and that certainly is a huge factor, but there are others as well. Just the cost of operating and doing business has increased for schools and for everyone, from the individual household to other types of businesses. So, gas and electric is a great example. So I'll show that graph again, as well as other contractual increases. So here's the graph we looked at a couple of meetings, for the last couple of meetings, looking at the healthcare costs and how they've increased over the past few years, or looking over the past 10 years where they stayed relatively predictable and almost flat with minor increases and decreases. And then starting in 22, 23, and over the last 3 years and moving forward, we've seen sharp increases. And that's where you hear us talk about the challenges of increasing healthcare costs and the impact it's had on the budget. And then gas and electric is a good example of how operating costs have impacted our budget, and like I said, everyone's really, I think even our own household budgets. And electric, especially in the red bars, you can see really starting this year in 24-25 increased sharply from 23-24, and we can see in 25-26 we expect that trend to continue. So that certainly puts stress on our operations and maintenance portion of our budget. And then contractual increases. Aside from contractual increases such as operating increases, other examples would be, our trash and recycling contract or our snow removal contract, but contractual increases in the sense of when you roll over a budget, contractual salary raises are one of the first increases to consider. And in 24-25, salaries accounted for almost 46% of the overall budget. Then if you couple that with the benefits that go with the salaries, we're talking over 70% of the budget are the salaries and benefits for our staff members. And then in 25-26, each bargaining unit will receive another either percentage increase or dollar amount increase between 3 and 4%. So those are all important factors to take into consideration when you first begin the process of rolling over the budget from one year to the next. So then we get to the 25-26 draft budget. And again, a couple of notes. So again, when we went through that initial rollover process with those factors that I just spoke about, the rollover budget, when we first started, before looking at any type of reductions was around 99.3 million on the expenditure side, which represented a 12.2% increase to the overall budget from the current year. Through different reductions, the expenditure side was brought into balance with the revenue to reach $94,197,840, which is a 6.45% increase from 2024-25. This represents a dollar reduction of $5.1 million. So this included a careful analysis of the needs and spending on supplies and materials, equipment, BOCES services, other types of contractual services, employee benefits, salaries, and positions. And some of this was done as we were rolling over the budget. So, we looked carefully at spending on supplies and equipment, especially, were there any areas where we could pare that back a little bit? We looked very closely at BOCES services. BOCES services are wonderful and amazing opportunities, but, we looked very closely at, were there any that we could think about reducing or going a couple of years without to save some money. So everything was looked at, and when we get to the expenditure portion of the budget, you may see where lines still did increase, but if you think about rolling over to 99.3 million, had we left it there, those areas would have increased far more than what they do. So then, part of every budget is deciding on a tax levy. So we've shown this slide over the last couple of years and then updated it as we've gone. So at the last meeting, we shared that last line in blue. That's 25-26, but it's in blue because, of course, it hasn't been voter approved, so it's not official, and it's not included in the calculations in the green and red lines at the bottom. And we kind of just give some context to the idea of the tax levy and what Fulton has done over the years. And the average percent increase over the last 10 years has been around 1.2%. And should we decide, or should the voters decide on the 1.9% increase that we've been speaking about, then it would remain around 1.2%. In the 10-year average, it would be 1.23 going forward. And then, we talk about the dollar increase over the last 10 years being just over 2.5 million, but the total permissible increase could have been 5 million, and the difference between the two being 2.4 million. So the total permissible increase, meaning if we had gone to the cap each year, the tax cap, meaning the highest allowable amount we could have gone to. So again, just giving some context to the discussion surrounding the tax levy and the amount that we may choose to increase taxes in a given year.
I think historically, it just shows the board's commitment and the administration's commitment to trying to really take into consideration the impacts on our community. And to see the comparison side by side really shows that I think we've worked really hard at that, and that 1.2 has been it's a good snapshot of a 10-year picture.
The next slide is the estimated impact per household based on the assessed value of a home should the voters approve a 1.9% increase on taxes. So for a home assessed at $100,000, the estimated impact would be $34.58 per year increase on taxes. For a home assessed at $200,000, the estimated increase would be $83.98. And for a home assessed at $300,000, the estimated increase would be $133.38. I keep emphasizing estimated. We do these estimates, to help make it a little, bring it down to, the per household level to give the community an idea of, how would it impact me? It's hard to look at the overall tax levy and really think about, well, what does that mean to me? So I think the estimated per household might help make it a little bit more meaningful, but it is an estimate because we don't get the actual tax rates for the upcoming year until the beginning of the summer. So we use the information we have, which are last year's tax rates, So it is an estimate, but again, it does make it a little bit more personal and realistic, I think, in terms of what that would mean to the individual. Moving on to the projected revenue. And again, unfortunately, we don't have the numbers from the legislative budget just yet. So these are the numbers that we received back in January from the governor's executive budget. Historically, it hasn't changed a whole lot, so we're hoping that these will remain relatively stable when we do get those numbers, hopefully any day now. But on the left-hand side, you can see in the pie chart, the largest amount of the revenue we receive is in state aid at almost 70%, which is typical. And then the tax levy is 24.4% of our revenue. And the rest of our revenue that we say other is 6.7%. This year, that's a slightly larger piece of the pie graph. We are exercising our option to use some of our reserves or our savings to help balance the budget. We're using 3.8 million in reserves. And then the rest of the other part of the pie graph is different forms of miscellaneous revenue. That could be a portion of money that is a refund from our BOCES expenses from the prior year. It could be rent from the use of our facilities that we have agreements with BOCES to use different portions of our buildings, some tuition money, some donations, various sources of miscellaneous revenue, and then some federal money through Medicaid reimbursements. And that rounds out our revenue total at $94,197,840.
You were saying federal for Medicaid. Do we get anything for education from the federal?
We do in the form of grants, but that's not in the general fund. It's a separate fund, so that's not depicted in this particular number. The Medicaid is reimbursement for like our speech OT services, things like that. So it's a relatively small amount, but
And Kate,
sure,
our refund from the COSERS, that goes in the miscellaneous part of
it
that.
does. Yeah.
So is that possibly a little bigger too, because we've been trying to switch more of our services to that?
It's been relatively stable. I tend to try not to overplan for that. You know what I mean? I kind of base it on this year, and they give us some idea of a projection. So, but I mean that's always something we can plan on. But like I said, I try not to overplan on that portion. Just you never want to think you're going to get more than you are.
To Nick's point, on the federal, even though it's not related to the general fund, is it approximately over 3 million, roughly? Title I, IDEA, which is special education, we have a lot of staff on those types of grants. So it's not a part of it, it's an addition to what's on the budget, or on what you're seeing here. So I didn't want to kind of avoid, it's on the way, but it's not part of the general, but it's very much
It's related
a part
to
of
it.
the work that we do in our schools.
Right.
But those are grants.
Those
we,
are
we have
so.
to apply for it.
Well, yes. You're typically awarded a certain amount, and then you fill out the application to make sure you receive the money. And it's not in that total revenue. However, when we receive our allocation of the money, we do put a lot of that towards salaries. So a lot of it, we say we assume grant money. So we know we're going to put grant money towards salaries. So it would certainly hurt us if for whatever reason that money was no longer made available.
But there's nothing like we could state aid, there's education like, there's nothing from the Federal Department of Education as far as aid to Fulton.
We get about $3 million.
It's done through grants.
It's-
The
Yes.
Yeah.
So if that goes away, that's the salary.
that would be another
$3
area
million
where
in
we'd have a
salaries.
hole.
Right.
And right now, we're not hearing that from the federal government, but there's so
No.
many things changing at the federal level, you're monitoring on a daily basis to see.
Everything
where
I've
that is.
heard is that the money will continue to come. It may filter through in a different way, possibly through the states, possibly through a different entity.
Which was the strategy before the U.S. Department of Education actually did float in each state. The question was the distribution wasn't in education at the time, it was in the 1980s.
And we know what the distribution looks like, and where it goes, so.
So there'd be a lot of advocacy that would have to go along with that.
The next portion discusses the three-part budget and the expenditure side a little bit. Before I showed the numbers, I just wanted to outline what's included in the different parts of the three-part budget. So the three parts are the program, capital, and administrative portions. Within the program portion of the budget, that's the largest portion, you have regular school, special education, special schools. Special schools could mean summer programs or occupational education, student services, extracurricular activities, transportation, employee benefits, and interfund transfer to special programs. And what that means is our contribution to the ESY, summer programming for special education students, so the extended school year programming for special education students. Then within the capital portion, we have the operation and maintenance of the plant, debt service, employee benefits, and interfund transfer to capital. The interfund transfer to capital would be if the district were planning a capital outlay project, which is a $100,000 project, which we're not planning in 25-26. So you won't see that in the budget, but if we were, that's where that portion would be. The administrative portion includes the Board of Education, Central Administration, which is the superintendent, school supervision and curriculum supervision, so that's school principals and our executive directors, finance, which is the business office, personnel, which is human resources, BOCES administrative services, that's actually about 25% of that portion of the budget, and employee benefits. And then this slide shows the dollar amounts as well as the percentages on the right. And again, you want to see the program percentage be the largest percentage, which we are at 75.7% for the program component. The capital component is at 14.7%, and the administrative component is at 9.6%. And then in terms of dollar amounts, program is $71,261,347. Capital is $13,879,637. And administrative is $9,056,856. And again, our total is balanced with our revenue at $94,197,840. And then another way of showing the proposed expenditures just in different expense categories in terms of salaries, equipment, contractual spending, materials and supplies, BOCES services, debt service, employee benefits, interfund transfers, and then the total expenditures overall, as well as the dollar increase or decrease from 24-25 to the proposed expenditures in 25-26. And you can see the largest decrease in debt service, which we have talked about right along. We did see our debt drop off this year, which also led to a decrease in our building aid. However, we expect to see those numbers come back to a similar level to 24-25 in the following year. And again, the employee benefits line certainly is the most significant increase we see in the budget. Are there any questions in terms of the expenditures? Then this is just a small table of the last 5 years in terms of our overall percentage increase to the budget. In 23-24 is where we were starting to see the COVID stimulus money fade out and have to absorb anything back into the general fund. So you can see our percentages sort of have been relatively similar from 23-24 on.
It also matches our increase in our healthcare.
That too. And that's about the time we saw that
Right, but
sharp
same
increase.
years.
Yep. And of course, this year, our overall increase is 6.45%. Then, we discussed in one of the earlier slides, our need to make some reductions to the budget this year in order to balance the revenue and the expenditures. We carefully examined all of the different budget lines, and as I said, when we rolled over the budget, reduced as many of the lines as we could. And some of the reductions did include positions. So I will let Mr. Kopani and Mr. and Mrs. Hendrickson help me out with this portion of the presentation.
So we had reduced 59 positions. We did our best to have this be through the natural process of attrition, meaning retirements, resignations. As of April 7th, this is throughout the year, the resignations, and these are positions that we're not replacing. So far, I've had 2 what I would say are summer resignations, meaning somebody's leaving at the end of the school year to go to another district. Both of them are home districts, actually, they're home districts. But throughout the year, there have been 13 resignations that are positions that are not going to be accounted for in next year's budget. 16 retirements. The numbers are not going to add up because keep in mind there's specialty certifications that we can't move an elementary teacher to chemistry. We have to hire a chemistry teacher. We couldn't move a gym teacher to special ed. We'd have to hire a special education teacher. So the numbers won't match up exactly. But we've also had 15 fair dismissals, which is high, but this is a process that we use. It is Education Law 3031 that is basically for a teacher that we're not confident to give tenure to, and so we give them the option to resign. As this process carries on, it's our way of saying, we're not going to give you tenure and you're not going to come back next year. And so again, we follow ed law with that process, and we've done 15 this year. Based on the numbers through attrition, this is actually wrong. As of 4/8/2025, we're looking only at 4 instructional staff positions through 1 resignation and 1 retirement today. So we're looking at 3 teachers and 1 teaching assistant, and then we're looking at 16 non-instructional staff, would be 15 teachers' aides, and 1 clerical. So my prediction, again, I couldn't guarantee anything, but based on our experiences, we had 9 teacher resignations last year. We had 15 non-instructional resignations, and these would be more or less summer resignations, is that through the process of attrition over the course of the next 3 months, we will not be laying off any teachers. We'll be sending an email out tonight just to make everyone aware of the information that we shared at tonight's board meeting. Anyone who is going to be fair dismissed or potentially laid off will receive notification by the end of the week. That'll be their initial notification for the people who may be laid off. And the letter that we use does state the process of reinstating them, which would be through seniority. However, we will not give them final notification that they're being laid off until June. So we'll give them the opportunity to look for another position, but we will let them know for sure in June if their position is expected to be gone for next year. So you want to go to the next slide?
Yep.
Jeff, this might be more of your area about where we decided to reduce.
So again, when we look at the reductions, these are areas, a lot of those areas, when you go back that slide, it showed the retirements, the resignations. This is where those are coming from. So looking at actual position reductions rather than people reductions. Right now we're talking about the layoffs being 16 and 4, but the actual reductions is 59. So of those 59, they came out of these areas: administrative, clerical, our multi-tiered system of support coordinator, special area, interventionist, secondary and elementary, special education teachers, secondary content teachers, instructional coaches, student support service
student support team members, our teaching assistants, aides and monitors, and custodial.
Jeff, can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
Custodial, there will be no layoffs. All of those positions were through attrition. We've had, in fact, we are gonna be hiring for custodial because we plan to reduce 5 and right now we are down 7. So we plan on hiring 2 for custodial. Aides and monitors, the reason why we have a high number of aides and monitors that will be reduced is because over the last 2 years, through CSE, we've had a lot of one-to-one aides that have been placed on students. Now the goal when you place a special needs aide on a student is to gradually reduce the restriction and allow that student as they get older to be more independent. So through the process of spring annual CSEs, we've reduced well over 15 one-to-one aides. However, we're gonna stay with the 15 now because we know that throughout the course of next year, we're gonna have more aides needed to handle special needs kids.
Yeah,
So
those are based on projections.
they're based on the projections from the spring annual.
And we also created a 12-1-1 class around January based on the students' needs. So when you go to a more restricted environment like a special class, you start to look at the dynamics and the supports that are necessary in that classroom as well. So knock on wood, there's some really good things happening in those classrooms as well. So we made some good decisions there as well to better organize the resources around the kids in a for example, like a special class environment.
Mr. Capani, I'm sorry, and I just thought of this when you're talking about the reduction in custodial staff. If we're reducing the aides, can we also say like, you know, but we do have other positions that may be opening up, like custodial, things like that, if you're interested as well, and put those offers, or we expect food service turnover, I don't know, but just let
You
them
do have
know.
food service turnover,
Okay.
so, yep.
Yep.
And again, that'll be, I don't wanna say unfortunately, but I'll be having conversations individually with each person, and that'll be something that I will bring up to them as well.
Great.
Jeff, do you wanna touch on instructional coaches?
Go ahead. Okay.
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's all right. Well, you mean as far, like, we are proposing combining instructional opportunities for the coaches and balancing it with being instructional specialists, and not necessarily coaches, but using their skill set to help with trainings. They're experts in each one of the content areas, and we really can't lose that piece. But we also know that we need to fill some instructional pieces, and they're highly skilled teachers, so we're thinking about how to leverage those skills for them while meeting our kids' needs and our staff's needs with professional development.
Right, we save a lot of money by doing train-the-trainer models. And so a lot of our professional development is we've had people go through trainings with, for example, letters, for example. We went and got some people certified that are here tonight, I see. And go on a trip, but then they can train our staff. We don't have to pay, like, for example, a company to come in $10,000, $15,000 to do the training. So part of what our instructional people will do is that they'll provide those trainings. That'll actually help us build the capacity and sustainability in our district, which is what you want, which is why we did that in the first place. Because bringing companies in and out doesn't create the consistency that you're looking for, and there's not an understanding of what we're trying to do in our classrooms and an understanding of our specific data that's going on with kids so that we can make those adjustments to better support our teachers as they strive to develop interventions and strategies in their classrooms as far as best instructional practices.
And it's probably a lot more useful to have that coach here for after the PD day is over, that your staff can go and ask questions and still reach out to a little bit more conveniently as well.
And it's something we haven't really talked about. We should have been talking about over the years. We've been doing that. It's not something recent. We've
I was
been
gonna say,
building
we've
that
been doing
capacity.
this anyway, right?
We've been doing it, but it just shows an example of how we can be more flexible and we can really think out of the box to reduce costs and really think about how we're doing things as well.
We're also reducing 4 full-time content positions based on resignation and fair dismissal and retirement from the high school. And so that's how we're reducing the coaches' positions. They're going to be kind of like our department chairs, teaching a few classes, and then they're going to be focusing on their instructional specialty after that. So it was a way to reduce, it was a way to get the coaches, maintain the coaches for our tier 1 professional development, as well as kind of right-size the high school, which has shrunk by about 130 students over the course of a couple of years.
We were at 1,030 when I first got here, thereabouts, and now we're at 936, 940 roughly. So that's 70, 80 kids. Plus, remember, we have the early college high school programs. We've got a number of different programs that draw kids differently with the way we're doing things as well.
So part of what the team focused on was that idea that a whole position isn't always necessary to remove. Sometimes it's just a part. So if you take parts of the parts and put them together, you're back to a whole. So that idea of like some of our interventionists or secondary teachers along with the coaches, or they might have a little bit of a different role, but it's a part and a part, rather than have two positions that were cut. It would be one and then a partial and a partial to kind of make up the rest of it. So none of these were easy, like clean moves. There was a lot of trying to figure out how things could fit back together, keeping the services and supports for our kids as much in the center as possible, and making sure that our level of support for behavior, our level of support for academics were first and foremost as much as we could, and keeping our people in front of our kids.
Any questions?
How are we doing that with special area teachers?
So, same kind of thing, it's right sizing, it's looking at where we have some flex in the schedule. And if we have positions that we're not laying any special area teachers off, but we are looking at right sizing through people who are resignations or leaves or dismissals. So all of our PE, art, music are all being looked at as far as reductions.
So we have 2 music retirements, for example. Do we need to fill both of those? So we're looking at, and prior to that, we were at 11. Prior to that, and then we've gone to 12 the last couple of years. And so obviously not ideal, but looking at those, and when there's retirements, we have to look at all of the different components within the district. So that's an example of, we need to analyze that to see, is that possible while maintaining the high quality of our programs? Because, you know, one of the things that, you know, for example, we're one of the few districts that offers strings, and we should be very proud of that in this county. And so just things like that, looking at that, so we're working closely with that. What's your job? Facilitator. And looking at that, we'll also be looking at our art and looking at the number of sections that we need across the districts to be able to do that, because we had some areas where we had some ability to look at that. And then we'll also look at our PE/health. PE and health goes together as well as a pair.
PE is mandated, not an elective.
Correct.
Right. I guess I don't understand the reductions, like, okay, so we're doing now 4 instructional reductions and 16 non-instructional reductions.
No, we're doing 59 reductions, where 4 is the layoffs, people who we couldn't find a spot for, and 16 will be the non-instructional people we don't have a spot for. But as far as total reductions, there are 59 up there, but most of them are through, again, resignations, retirements, and fair dismissals, and then moving the pieces around. So there are positions that are not gonna be here next year, there'll be 59 of them, but we've been able to, again, move people into different certifications that they may have. Someone may have special ed, literacy, and childhood education, and so we have a position opening, and instead of having them be reduced because they're high or low on the totem pole, they would be moved into that position.
Right, I understand that part, but how many people do we have to talk to total?
4 as far as layoffs, and 1 more as far as a fair dismissal, and then we're done with all that, so that'll be done by Friday.
4 plus the 15.
Plus this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right. Just want to make sure.
So is that, or is the budget reductions that we're seeing here, is that the 59?
That's
Okay,
this is the
that was the 59.
That's all of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah, because
No, that's all
not adding up in my
59.
mind.
Good question.
That was, okay, gotcha.
And then we are also keeping track if anybody may have a different position next year. We had a very organized map of every building and every position and every reduction and every move. And so it was actually, the master organizer over here has been very helpful to take sticky notes, move the pieces in order to coordinate who's gonna be going where. And then we use those to check off, so to speak, as we move through the process to make sure that we're doing it in a timely fashion and considering everybody and making sure everybody's spoken to about any new position or potential layoff.
Yeah, that was the question I had for the fact that you're moving things around and reconfiguring. When would our people who are staying know, hey, I've been in this building for 25 years and you know what, we need to move. I'm just throwing a number out there.
Right.
Or I want to work in this building, but you have a position for me here. When will our people know? That's not by the end of
Or the different
break.
Not by the end of this
responsibilities.
That will be a little bit
After spring
later.
break, but we don't wanna be too hasty because this changed in one day.
Right,
Like I
right.
said, I don't want to guarantee, but I am pretty confident that we will not be laying any instructional staff off and a lot less aides that we have up there now.
Yeah,
So what we want to do is we put people in positions. We've met with union representation for any area that's going to see reductions and discuss seniority lists and make sure that they're on board and those lists are certified. We don't necessarily want to start notifying people of moves until we get a little bit closer, I would say into May, just because they may change, but nothing is as drastic as someone being taken out of the building and been in for 25 years.
I was
I
just
know.
throwing that out, because I have no idea what
Anybody
you're
get
looking at,
anxious,
but,
they've all been fairly
I
superficial.
just wanted to know that, you know, they're not just finding out at the end of June.
No,
Like,
no,
you're gonna
no.
give everybody, regardless of what the moves are, and then subject to change, because it's
Right.
possible that we won't need to, correct?
So
And I think
historically-
it's like super good and nice that there's an alternative.
Yes,
If I had to move after 26 years from the middle school, but I'm keeping my job, thank you, and I'm moving to the elementary school, you know what I mean? Or I'm teaching half-time at the elementary school, half-time at the middle school. No, that is definitely not what I want to do, but I want more to stay in the district.
We also know that when people have some control over their own destiny, they're more likely to feel good about what's happening. So the first thing we do before any of this, and we do this any year, is we reach out to the staff and say, would you be interested in a change if there was something that came up, and what would that look like? So that they can say like, yeah, I'd be willing to try this or do this. And one thing that's evident through Alyssa's, our teaching staff looks out for each other and tries to coordinate with each other and take care of each other. So if it means that I go do this, I mean, people have already preemptively reached out and said, if this is open, I'll do this so someone else can do this and we can coordinate, because they're already thinking about how this is gonna look. I mean, the reductions and the layoffs are one thing, but then all the jostling and movement and switching around really throws people for a loop. Because to your point, if you've been somewhere for a long time, you get comfortable and safe there, and having this weighing on your, hanging over your head is tough. So as soon as possible, but to Mark's point, not too quickly, so that we say one thing and then change, because that's what really throws people, is you're gonna do this, no, you're gonna do this, no, you're gonna do this. Instead, we try to make sure all the pieces are laid out, because with 59 reductions, it's gonna hit almost every department of every building in some way or another where there's gonna be something.
And as
So
I keep calling Kate, every other day, I think at this point, I'm having to back up. We still don't have from the state what we were supposed to have on the first of how much money we're actually getting. I mean, if they come through and say, well, we need more support, and they give us more, that also changes what we have to do in the long run. So, I mean, just looking at it as, letting people know possibilities, but nothing's written in stone at this point, especially because the state hasn't given us all the information we need to make decisions.
And we plan for the worst and hope for the best in a lot of cases. Like, this is the bare bones what we can do. This isn't hopeful that, this isn't based on we could get more. This is what we're gonna have to live with. If we get more, great, then we can add things in, we can look at that, we can reassess and see where we are. But right now, this is where we have to be.
And then building back would be fantastic, also making sure we have enough room in the budget next year, so we don't have to do this again. But building back, I think, would also be a collaborative process with FTA and leadership. We shouldn't be the only ones to determine what's important in each building academically. So they're very involved in this process, and it's been a very good collaboration from the beginning. So when we do talk to people about moves, it's got to be within their certification area. We try to keep them in the same building, and we try not to do anything that is too crazy, but sometimes our hands will be tied because someone may only have one certification. We only have people we discovered, because when we went through each list and each person, we looked up their certification area. We have some people with multi-certifications that are very versatile, that we were able to move into a different position, which saved another person's job. And so I think that's how we were able to reduce the layoffs so much, is by being clever about where we move people and use their certifications to preserve. Really, it's it's only one area as of now, and that is 3 elementary teachers. And so like I said, I'm confident, based on the last few years that I've been doing this, that through resignations and people moving because there is an open market to their home districts or to another district, hopefully for good reasons and not bad reasons, they'll all have jobs within a month and a half, 2 months. So we're cautious about announcing layoffs, but this is where we're at as far as the budget goes and the numbers. And I wouldn't want to give anyone false hope, but I would be pretty surprised if it stays the same up until the end of the school year. I think we're gonna end up hiring more than we think as of now, which would be a good problem to have.
Well, I appreciate the attentiveness that you have to the details of finding those extra certifications in your staff and really looking at each position to benefit our students and our staff and not just, just jumping in there blindly. You guys have put a lot of time and effort into this. I can't imagine being in the shoes that you guys are in. You guys have put countless hours into really trying to balance things out correctly for what we have to deal with here financially. So do appreciate
I do too. I keep
everything
coming
that you
back
guys
with,
are
oh, I
doing.
have another number for you guys, and then they have to switch gears and they.
So, yeah,
Back up behind that guy.
back up to the backup. And really, Kate started with those 3 circles, culture, systems, and student learning in the center. That's been our driver. Like, how do we keep our culture intact as much as possible that supports our systems to support our kids? And in the middle of that, what is the direct impact on our learners? That's been where we keep coming back to that. Okay, how can we do this with as little impact on those circles as possible and keep things intact that we need?
So I just wanted to,
I also want to add, I'd be remiss if I didn't say that building principals have been excellent in working
I was
with us
gonna,
in order to make sure that we understand the dynamics of their building, and we've been, again, trying to provide equity throughout our 4 buildings, because as much as we'd like them to be the same, they are different. So principals have been, and the directors have been incredibly helpful, and this is definitely a team effort, not for great reasons, but I think we made do with the best that we could in this situation, all of us. Sorry, go ahead.
no, that's okay. So I just wanted to add, I know, I appreciate everybody's hard work. I know you guys are working on this night and day, every day, and things like that. Just from a staff perspective, and my own perspective, right? Everybody knows I'm a federal employee, got return to work orders. It's a mess. We don't know where we're going. We don't know what building. We don't know if I'm going to the post office or social security bill. We don't know. That unknown has created, with all of my colleagues, such anxiety and restlessness. We could process this a lot better if we just know, or here's kind of what the plan is moving forward. We're not 100% sure, but this is what we're looking at, moving you here or this, but things may change. Just making sure that we're able to communicate that with our staff instead of saying, oh, we're gonna, trying to notify them more in May or June or things like that, where they're moving to. It's the unknown that is really keeps them up at night, not knowing where they're moved or what the plan is or things like that. And I know we have to do it for certain reasons, but that not knowing is going to cause more staff turnover, and people are like, well, I think I'm going to get moved, or worst case scenarios in their head, and then they start looking for other jobs or things like that. So I just wanted to put that out there, saying I'm going through it, my colleagues are going through it, I know our staff's going through it, and if we can just let them know is like, this is what we're thinking, and we may place you here, but things could change. At least they've got peace of knowing, like, okay, there's a place for me, or this is what the plan is, and I'm being included in the plan.
Based on the way that we did the reductions, I would say the people who are being moved to a different position, it would be less than 15.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not talking about a large number of people, but I do understand what you're saying. The unknown has been keeping us up at night as well, because we're constantly having to negotiate, what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks. But your point is valid, and we will try to tell them as soon as we can, or at least give them an idea. But I think the important thing is that after this week, everyone's going to know that they have jobs.
Yes, and I know that it's only 15, but it's really all of the district not knowing, what I mean? Assuming like, well, maybe it's me, or moving and things like that. So it is only 15 positions, but we have the bulk majority of the staff wondering, is it me? Am I moving? Am I getting pulled to a different direction, or things like that? And so
So, as soon as we can.
Yeah.
I mean, we're not gonna hold off, but that idea of false starts too, like, you could go here, you might be moving here, this, as sure as we can be, and to your point, every move has dominoes into another move. So we talk to someone and we think, okay, these are 3 positions that could fall together. One person says, I'm not doing that, I'm gonna go to my hometown, or I'm gonna,
I say we set
Has
our
less
goal
of a-
at mid-May, at the absolute latest, first week of May, right after spring break. I would think at that position, we'd be in a position right there where we can inform people of the potential moves and be pretty accurate as to that they're staying in that position. We'll set that as a goal.
Yeah.
We'll do our best.
And I think to echo that, you know, one of the things, and thank you, Brenda, for bringing that up, that this is so people focused. This whole thing, when you look at our budget,
Oh, it
over
is.
73, 74% is about people, and all these people bring gifts and talents. And if you were a fly on the wall in the room where we have these massive chart papers up and we're moving things around, the emotion that goes on in there, thinking about the human beings and the little human beings that are in all those classrooms that they're serving. It always gets back to what's going on with the kids, but also all of those individuals that have committed themselves to the Fulton City School District. And the emotions as we talk about, and we're trying to figure this out, and how do we maximize the resources here, it always comes back to the humanness of this situation, which is a little different than some of the ways of the world right now, where they're just looking like numbers. And like you're saying, I think if there's anything that this team has brought to this, is there's been a strong element of humanness, and really thinking about the individuals and the process that goes along with it, being in a timely way, but also in a way that's meaningful and purposeful, and thinking about, you know, helping people understand this is why we think you might be a real great fit here.
Yes.
And understanding that your gifts and talents could be the perfect fit that you never thought about here. And it's all of those things as we go through, but I appreciate your words, and I appreciate my team. And my team is extended beyond the individuals sitting at this table, but all of the principals and everybody else that we've been getting input from. It's been really valuable, as well as the board. As we work through, and we're just little ways through this right now. The other piece is we're looking at how do we find cost savings. I come into Kate's office all the time and I throw, have you thought about doing this? And what about if we do this? And you know, obviously we're looking at, is there other ways we can save monies, whether it's in the energy field, whether it's in the benefits. We're looking at all of those distant areas, because this isn't just a 25-6 problem. This is setting, this budget helps the 26, 27, 27, 28, 28, 29 down the road. So, you know, we're setting a foundation for what the district will be able to do flexibility-wise over the next few years as well.
Yep.
So thank you to my team.
Just a couple more slides in terms of the rest of our timeline. This is just in terms of meetings and dates. Our next board meeting on the 22nd. A couple of big tasks in terms of adopting the draft budget and the property tax report card, which I did give just the draft for everybody's review in your executive materials for this meeting, just so you see it one time before we have to adopt it. It's pretty straightforward in terms of the numbers, but let me know if there are questions before the next board meeting. Again, many of the dates were already reviewed, so I don't need to go over them again. Just May 8th is our public budget forum where Brian and I will present the budget, and then the vote on the 20th, and the ratification on the 21st. And then, again, as Brenda had mentioned, if there are budget questions or comments, we are going to host a series of community forums throughout the month of April, with the first being this Thursday, April 10th at 6 p.m. here at the Ed Center. Then the second one, Tuesday, April 15th, which will be online, and we will share the link probably on Facebook, on the website, and on Parent Square. And then the final one on Monday, April 21st at 6 p.m. again here at the Ed Center. We would encourage, if community members have questions and they would like to send them ahead, to use the email address on the screen. It's fcsd-budget@fulton.cnyric.org. Or if you can't make any of the forums but have questions or comments, please feel free to email that email address. We will post the responses to any questions we receive and are happy to answer questions and just hear anyone's thoughts regarding the budget. You know, any community members, certainly we encourage community members to have children in the district. You know, this certainly impacts families and children who are attending our district especially. But all community members certainly are welcome to attend any of our sessions or send emails. If people have questions about registering to vote, we did have some information in our recent newsletter, but there's also information on our website under the Board of Education section, or people can call the district clerk's office for help with any questions regarding registering to vote.
Kate, can I just ask one question? You said for community members who send you information through the email address, you're going to post it. Can you let the community know where you're going to post it?
I'll do sort of a probably FAQ type document on the budget area of the website. It's under the business office, and then 25-26 budget. It's where we've been posting the presentations so far as we go.
Thank you.
So that's where it will be. And I feel like I was going to say something else about the public forums, and it has escaped me. But
Did we say that we're gonna do an all-call out for the budget forum?
I didn't say that, but that's a good idea.
Okay, I didn't know if I missed it.
I can, but
All-call?
Like, want me to do a snow day?
Oh, okay.
Did I
was
say
that-
the wrong word?
No,
Did
I
I
was,
use
it's
the
just a
word-
different term
I
for
said
me.
Parent Square. I
Oh.
Parent Square. We would
Parent
do a
Square.
blast through Parent Square.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, or, yeah, that's right.
That was an older term, I just,
Yeah.
I missed it.
Well, that's because I'm old.
No.
Okay, yep, all right, perfect.
Yeah.
And do we have anything like right on, like, the front of the webpage about this?
I actually wrote that down because I wondered if we had a link on the front page.
It's
If we
not
could
right
do a
on the front
special
page.
announcements
It's-
though? But we could do a special
We
announcement.
could, and I'd like to get the, especially the email address
Yep.
too, on the front page.
I feel like I was just there looking up to see if the game got canceled tonight. And so when I was on the front homepage, I was just thinking maybe it would just be easier, because sometimes, I mean, it's hard for me to navigate and, you know, try to find all of these,
You have to work your way through.
work your way through. And with something so important that's going to impact so many kids and families, especially wanting the families to come out.
Yeah, we'll put it on the front page of the website. We can put it back on Facebook again
Yes. And we can-
tomorrow, and then we can
Our first one's Thursday evening,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah,
put it back on Parent Square again even.
and then I'll call Brian.
Using Brian's voice.
Got it now.
Brian.
Using Brian's voice, not Kate's.
Not Kate's.
I have a voice.
All
Yeah.
right, perfect.
Any other questions? Any more components, Kate? I think that's the
That's
last
it.
page,
That's my
right?
last
I've got one for Kate.
Sure.
Sure.
The electricity, the utilities. Is there anything out there for commercially? Well, I get advertisements all the time from Next Amp. It's a solar farm. I can save 10% on my electricity.
Right.
Is there anything out there for us as a school district that can?
Right now,
Participate.
we're in like a cooperative, so they put out an RFP every couple of years. They're putting out a new one next year, hoping to get better prices. It's through, and I should research this more. You and I can talk to Corey about it. It's called NISMIC. I don't know if you've ever heard of them.
No.
I'll send it to you.
Okay.
But they just RFP'd it last year, and it's not exactly impressive. It went up by like 50%. So they're going to put another RFP out, but it's sort of all the districts in the area go through this. It's for gas and electric, and it's not
Saving very much.
it's not saving us anything. But and I don't know, but that's a good question for Corey. I don't know if you can go outside of that. I'm sure you can, but then maybe exploring what our options would be if we did that, if we broke from
Yeah, I
it.
mean, if something like that was available, just looking at the electricity.
Yeah,
you know,
it's
save
crazy.
10% on it, it's substantial for me.
Because we went from like, under 500,000, now we're up to almost
I
800,000.
wonder if NYSERDA,
Yeah,
that may be able to help us.
those are good questions, but maybe the three of us can get on an email. and
Yeah,
kind
I'd
of-
love to. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's the conclusion of the superintendent's report. I hope if you have questions, please reach out to us. Thank you, Kate, for presenting tonight, and the rest of the team for everybody participating. It was a group effort this evening. And that's the conclusion of the superintendent's report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on to action 4.01, accept the financials. Can somebody move it?
Move it. Second.
I don't know who seconded it. Who was second?
Lori.
Lori? Okay. Jen and Lori, okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 600. Action 4.02, to approve the snow removal bid. Somebody move it?
Move it. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 600. Action 5.01, approve committee on special education.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 600. I can get a colleague to batch personnel 6.01 to 6.10.
Move it.
Second.
Tim and Jen? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 600. All right. Board forum, let's start with Lori tonight.
Well, I'd like to say thank you to the team. You put so much work into it, and I hope everybody appreciates all that you do with that. I'd like to say for City BOCES, congratulations to Jeremy Belfield. And I'd like to give a shout out to that fabulous dinner we had the other night from City BOCES. It was phenomenal. And thank you, library, for all your information.
So the annual BOCES budget was last weekend, or last Tuesday, and Lori and I and Brian were able to attend. The new superintendent is Jeremy Belfield, out to City BOCES, one of our Fulton teachers, and I remember he was an intern when I worked at Fairgrade. It was good to see him get closer to home.
Yeah.
And the fabulous dinner was put on by all of the students in the county who attend the City BOCES culinary program. There were many, oh my goodness, and they had the diamonds to denim, so there was basically foods you would eat in your backyard versus like fancy foods that you would eat if you went out for fine cuisine. The kids were in charge of those. They helped do like sous chef, the prep chef, they helped the chef, they were, maitre d's and the waiters and waitresses, those who were in front house coordinator, they just did so much, and they got to present all these different foods and to talk to them. Like for me, it was nice because our Santina was one of our students out there. She's not able to join us this evening, but she was fantastic. She shared with us what she made. She came over and she, met with the table, kind of talked with us, and we were sitting with the superintendent from Hannibal at the time. So, and then to see students from my own school building and lots from yours too, it was just great. And they go up and they get to talk to us at the end and introduce themselves. It was a fantastic event, and every year, I mean, it was so great to listen about the city, budget as well. But kids definitely stole the show. And as with that, City BOCES is also in the same, as with many districts, the same situation where we are with the high rise in healthcare and the gas and electric, and they talked about that at City BOCES, which in turn then affects all of us as well. So
They
not
had about
only
a 10% increase.
Yeah, they
which
had
is
about a
what
10%
affects us.
increase.
That does
So.
impact our budget as well.
Yeah, so thank you for touching base on that. That was on my list, but I love that you brought that up, so that is fantastic. Anything else you would like to add?
I think that about covers up.
All right, Mrs. Mainville.
Thank you for the presentation with the library. I love that we have that connection and that outreach, and we're using it a lot more because it is such an important resource, and God knows we need help, with the kids reading and stuff. So you make that fun, you make it interesting, a different atmosphere. So thank you for that. And thanks team, it's such hard times right now, and we're all going through a difficult time, but it's even more difficult for you guys. So thanks for being as transparent as you can. And we're just gonna hope for the best and, move forward. That's all I have.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Ular?
Congratulations to all those who participated in the Battle of the Books. And to add for the library, just I hope everybody gets out there and votes yes on their budget. And to the team, Mr. Polvino's team, thanks for all your hard work and trying to save as many jobs as you can. That's all we can ask for. Thank you.
Mr. Connors?
We'd like to thank all the work everybody's doing. Everybody tonight did a great job presenting. I appreciate everyone who shows up to all the meetings and is listening and being informed on what's going on. And everyone get out and vote. Right now, control's in our hands to kind of decide how things go. If it doesn't pass, let's just say then other people get involved and they decide what's important to us. So I'd like to keep it with us, keep as much as we can our community culture and everything in our district to continue what we're doing and push forward for a better future.
Thank you.
That was a really great way to put it, Tim. Nice job.
Mrs. Hutchinson?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody for the presentations tonight. I did, when we were talking about the website, I was wondering if it's possible if we can find an easier link for our policies on a website. Right now, it's very difficult to go in there and try to look up policies. If you think it'd be under district or resources or things like that, or even our code of conduct. I've been visiting it a lot lately and it's not user friendly. And then my other question is, I did email Mr. Polvino and Ms. True today, just thinking of the budget. I don't know if you had a chance to see it. It was a late.
I was half done and I didn't push send.
No, it's fine. It was a late question, but I was like, well, maybe I can bring it up at the board. I was just trying to prepare you. But I was wondering if it's possible if, when we get a lot of things like, you know, we have the CNY School Board Association dinner in May and we have law conferences and things like that. I was wondering if it's possible if when we're getting that information, if we can also include there like what the cost is to the district. I know that we certainly want to be very budget friendly and, you know, maybe it's something that I'm kind of interested in, but then I want to be able to compare that to what the cost is. And if it's going to cost the district $250 to attend something and it's not, you know, I'm not super excited or interested about, then I at least can use it to base my decisions or, you know.
Or maybe just send a couple of us and not all of us.
Yeah, either way, but I just want,
right.
yeah, either way, I'm just like, oh, you know, this dinner's really nice to go to and I get to meet other school districts, but if it's gonna be an extraordinary cost, I don't wanna,
And a lot
I
of
wanna be
times
conscious of it.
with Central New York school boards and Oswego County school boards, a lot of times they're offering these to us for free because, which would be nice to know when they do because we pay a membership to be part of those organizations.
And
but that's a great
time, it's no
thing to
cost to
bring
the
it up.
district, and so it's like, oh yeah, I'm definitely
perfect.
more interested in going to that, but if
So
it's.
my response was actually going to be, let's talk about it at the
Oh,
board
sorry.
meeting and see what everybody wants.
Well, I was just
So that's
thinking,
perfect. So
I just
we
want to
can
be
include
fiscally
it.
responsible for us
Yeah.
as well.
It's embedded, and I
Yes.
think we make the assumption that you can do all the clicks, but we've already done the clicks.
Right.
So we already know how much a room, if there was an over like NISBA, for example,
Mm-hmm.
we know what the rate is for school board members. We know the rate of what travel is going to be.
Yes.
We know, we can kind of estimate it. So we
Yes.
can provide an estimated cost. It's probably simpler than just, I'm surprised after 9 years, nobody's ever asked for that, but it's kind of a basic kind of thing, so we
Yeah.
can do that.
And to your point, there probably is a click, but we have so many clicks here, you know, going to board
No,
docs
it's quick.
and
Yeah.
you know,
Yep.
we get the weekly update and we're clicking here and clicking there and going to board docs and clicking over and I miss things,
Yeah.
but just they have something handy so we
It would
can
help
make
you
the
make
best
decisions, and then as a board, you could decide, do you want to send
Sure.
one, none, three,
Yes.
5,
Yes.
7.
Sure.
Yeah.
And keep checking out those webinars because a lot of those
Yes.
webinars are free.
Yep,
So
a
we
lot
can
of
just
those
click
webinars
on
are
those.
Yep.
And if we can't watch the whole thing, a lot of times they send it to us after. So I know I'll start to watch it on my lunch break, but then if my class comes in, I just pick it up later when they send the rest on. So those are very helpful too.
That was it for me.
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's great. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
That was wonderful. Well, ditto to everything that my colleagues have said tonight. I just wanted to add one more thing. Some of us were able to go to that AI presentation, which was phenomenal. I did get to send you guys the slides. I hope you were able to look at them. Kate and Renee were also there. I just wanted to share with you, I went to the Oswego County School Board's meeting on Monday, and I shared this with Mr. Polvino earlier. I guess it was last Monday, it was a week ago, and I shared this with Mr. Polvino. Oswego County School Board is looking into possibly bringing back Ed Feeney, or, is it Finney? Finney, okay, I look like I had an extra L in there, but, he was, from the Shenandoah Central School District, a history teacher who does a lot with technology. He is amazing with that AI information, and he just gave us a small little smidget of what he can do. So the Oswego County School Board is looking into different districts who might be interested to bring him back to us, maybe with 2 or 3 other schools where we could do a PD day for staff. I know that your school district was interested, I know my school district interested, and I know Fulton is. They all may, who knows, but just from what I've been hearing, so it is possible that that could be something that's presented to us. And maybe possibly Oswego County School Boards could help us out or pick up the cost of doing this PD day. So put that on your agendas for next year's possibility. I'll just shout it over to this side of the room to next year's possibilities, because I know we only have in general that one countywide staff development day, but if it's possible, to be flexible, might be a great idea.
Yeah.
So, and I know that Lori was snapping away a lot of pictures there too, so. So I just wanted to add that in and update you guys on that. So with that said.
Yeah, I don't believe we have anything for executive session. I didn't know if the board had anything that you need.
I do not. We do not.
I asked my team earlier today if there was any
Wow.
questions.
Can I move to adjourn?
Look at this. Mrs. Hutchinson always wants to get out early and it's not even 7:25 yet. So if we can get someone to move for adjournment.
Second public forum?
Oh, wait, let me ask that. See, Fallon got all excited.
got excited.
We're going to 7:26. Is there anyone who would like to join us for second public forum? Nope, they want you to get home, Fallon. All right, so we move adjourn at Fallon and second. Is that Lori?
Yep.
All those in favor? Aye.
Gotcha.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstaining? Passes 600. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening.